I never thought I'd be standing in my parents' basement, staring at a teenage boy sprawled across the custom ergonomic sofa I'd picked out for my disabled sister. But there he was, my nephew Kevin, controller in hand, surrounded by empty energy drink cans on the coffee table I'd spent weeks selecting. My name is Jessica, and I've always been the responsible one, the sister who plans ahead, who saves money, who shows up. Maybe that's why it hurt so much more when they took advantage of it. "Hey, Aunt Jess!" Kevin barely looked up from his game. The surround sound system I'd installed, the one Sarah was supposed to use for her audiobooks, blasted gunfire through premium speakers. I stood there, keys still in hand, trying to process what I was seeing. The entire basement renovation had taken 8 months. Every detail was chosen with Sarah in mind, from the wider doorways to the adjusted counter heights, even the specific angle of the bathroom mirrors. "Kevin, where's Sarah?" I managed to ask. "Upstairs with Gran, I think." He shrugged, eyes glued to the screen. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my heart pounding. Mom, Eleanor, was in the kitchen with my older sister Chloe, both of them hovering over coffee like it was any other morning. "Oh, Jessica!" Mom's voice had that syrupy tone I'd grown to dread. "We weren't expecting you so early. Why is Kevin in Sarah's apartment?" The words came out calmer than I felt. Chloe set down her mug. "About that, Kevin's been having such a rough time lately. You know how his father is, and school's been awful. He really needed his own space." "His own space?" I repeated. "That basement was renovated for Sarah, with my money. Every single detail was planned for her needs." "And we appreciate that, honey," Mom cut in, reaching for my hand. I pulled back. "But Sarah's managing just fine upstairs, and Kevin really needs this right now. He's been through so much." "Where is Sarah?" "In her room," Chloe said. "Look, I know you put a lot of work into this, but Kevin—" I was already walking away, down the hall to Sarah's old bedroom, the one that barely fit her wheelchair, with doorways she had to navigate like a puzzle. Sarah was sitting by the window, pretending to read. She looked up when I entered, and I saw everything in her eyes, the resignation, the hurt, the forced smile. "Hey, Jess," she said softly. "I guess you saw downstairs? Why didn't you call me?" She shrugged, fidgeting with her book's pages. "What would it change? Mom and Chloe had already decided. They said Kevin needed it more than me right now." I thought about the past year, every overtime shift, every careful budget calculation, every consultation with contractors. I remembered Dad's voice from years ago, during one of his last good days. "You've got the strongest heart, Jessie. Don't let them take advantage of that." "This isn't over," I said quietly. "Jess, please don't make it worse. I'm fine here, really." But she wasn't fine. The room was cramped, with medical supplies stacked in corners and her wheelchair barely able to turn. The bathroom down the hall wasn't properly equipped. Everything I'd planned to fix, everything I'd actually fixed downstairs, was now being used by a teenager who couldn't even be bothered to use a coaster. My phone buzzed, a text from Jaden, my contractor. "All finished with the final touches, ready for Sarah to move in whenever you give the word." I stared at the message, my hands shaking slightly. 5 years ago, when Dad died, I'd promised myself I'd always protect Sarah. Now I stood in her too-small room, listening to the muffled sound of video games floating up from her custom-built apartment, and something inside me shifted. "I need to go," I told Sarah, leaning down to hug her. "But I promise you, this isn't how the story ends." Walking out, I passed Mom and Chloe in the kitchen. They were already chatting about something else, as if they hadn't just hijacked months of my work and savings, as if they hadn't just pushed Sarah aside like an afterthought. In my car, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The renovation had cost me exactly $48,920.89. Every penny documented, every receipt saved, because that's who I am. The responsible one, the planner. Well, they were about to learn that responsible people also know how to keep receipts. I started the engine, my mind already racing with next steps. They thought they could take advantage of my kindness? Fine. But kindness isn't weakness, and they were about to learn exactly how expensive that lesson could be. They did what? Kaya slammed her coffee mug down so hard that several nearby cafe patrons turned to stare. Tell me you're joking. I wished I was. It had been 3 days since discovering Kevin in the basement, and I'd been avoiding my family's calls while I sorted through my thoughts. But Kaya wouldn't let me dodge her anymore. I keep thinking I must have missed something, I said, stirring my untouched latte. Some conversation where they mentioned this was their plan all along. Oh, there was definitely a plan, Kaya's eyes narrowed. Just not one they bothered to include you in. Have you checked your emails from when the renovation started? I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through old messages. Contractor quotes, permit applications, design consultations, 8 months of paper trails. That's when I saw it. An email from Mom forwarding a contractor quote. The recipient line included Chloe's email. Why would Mom forward renovation quotes to Chloe? I muttered, opening the thread. Kaya leaned over my shoulder. When was that sent? 2 months before construction started. My stomach turned as I read further. She asked for Chloe's opinion on the layout, said it needed to be versatile for future use. Future use? Kaya's voice dripped with disgust. They were planning this from the beginning. My phone buzzed. Another missed call from Mom. I declined it. You need to talk to them eventually, Kaya said, gentler now. I know. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it without screaming. Right then, my phone lit up with a text from Sarah. Please come over. Mom's driving me crazy asking about you. I looked at Kaya. Want to witness a family disaster? Wouldn't miss it. 20 minutes later, we pulled into my parents' driveway. Kevin's skateboard was propped against the porch, a new addition to the carefully maintained front yard. Mom opened the door before we could knock. Jessica, finally! We've been so worried. She paused, noticing Kaya. Oh, hello, dear. Hi, Eleanor, Kaya said with artificial sweetness. Just here for moral support. We found Chloe in the kitchen, making what looked like protein shakes for Kevin. The basement door was open, and I could hear him playing music downstairs, in the soundproofed room I designed for Sarah's sensory needs. Can we talk? I asked, my voice steady. Of course, honey, Mom started. We've been trying to reach you. I want to discuss reimbursement. The kitchen went silent. Chloe's blender stopped mid-pulse. Reimbursement? Mom's face shifted from concern to confusion. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone, opening the spreadsheet I'd spent 3 days preparing. The total renovation costs, $48,920.89. I have every receipt, every invoice, every permit fee. Jessica, Chloe laughed nervously, you can't be serious. That was a gift. A gift for Sarah, I corrected. Not for Kevin. But what Kevin needs isn't my responsibility, I cut her off. I invested my savings to create an accessible living space for our disabled sister. You took that space for your son without discussing it with me or Sarah. Mom stepped forward, arms outstretched. Sweetheart, you're being dramatic. We're family. We don't keep score like this. Actually, Kaya spoke up from where she'd been quietly observing, families absolutely should keep score when it comes to $50,000. This doesn't concern you, and Chloe snapped. No, but it concerns me, Sarah's voice came from the hallway. She wheeled herself into the kitchen, looking more angry than I'd seen her in years. Were you ever going to ask what I wanted? Sarah, honey, Mom started. Don't honey me. Sarah's hands gripped her wheelchair arms. Jessica spent months planning this. For me, and you just gave it away? Kevin needed what? I interrupted. A gaming room? A private bathroom? Or did you just need somewhere to put him where you wouldn't have to deal with him? Chloe's face went red. How dare you? I want the money back, I said firmly. All of it. Or we can discuss this with lawyers present. Lawyers? Mom's voice rose. Jessica, you're threatening legal action against your own family? No. I pulled out a chair and sat down. I'm stating facts. You have 1 week to figure out how you're going to pay me back. After that, I'll be forced to explore other options. The kitchen fell silent again, broken only by the muffled sound of Kevin's music downstairs. You've changed, Chloe finally said, her voice cold. I stood up, gathering my things. No, I just stopped letting you take advantage of me. Walking out, I heard Sarah following behind me. She caught up at my car. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have stood up to them sooner. I squeezed her hand. This isn't over, Sarah. I promise. As we drove away, Kaya looked at me. You know they're going to fight this, right? I nodded, thinking about the lawyer's card sitting in my wallet. Good. Let them. These are all the original invoices? Jaden spread the papers across his desk, whistling at the numbers. His contractor's office smelled like coffee and sawdust, and somehow that made me feel more grounded. Every single one, I confirmed, including the custom bathroom fixtures we special ordered from Vancouver. He picked up a receipt, squinting. Hold on. This order for the adjustable countertops. It's in Chloe's name. What? I snatched the paper. Sure enough, there was Chloe's signature at the bottom, dated 2 months before construction began. She must have intercepted the delivery confirmation when I was out of town, I said, my hands shaking slightly. I remember being surprised everything had arrived early. Jaden leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. Jess, this isn't just taking advantage anymore. This was premeditated. They planned it, I said quietly. The whole time, they were planning to give it to Kevin. And they let you pay for all of it. He started sorting the papers into piles. Listen, I know a good lawyer. She specializes in property disputes. I already have one lined up, Nasir Burns. Jaden nodded approvingly. Smart choice. Want me to put together a formal estimate? Something that shows exactly what everything would cost at market rate? Please, I hesitated. Jaden, am I doing the right thing, going after my own family like this? He set down the papers and looked at me directly. You know what my dad used to say? People who use family as an excuse to hurt you aren't really family at all. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Mom's been crying all morning. Chloe keeps saying you're trying to destroy the family. Speaking of destroying families, I showed Jaden the text. Classic manipulation, he scoffed. They're not crying because they feel bad. They're crying because they got caught. Another text came through, this time from Kevin. Hey, Aunt Jess, Gran says I might have to move out. Is that true? I stared at the message, feeling that familiar pull of guilt. Kevin was just a kid, caught in the middle of adult drama. Don't answer that, Jaden advised, reading over my shoulder. Anything you say could be used against you later. I need to check on Sarah, I said, standing up. How long will the estimate take? Give me 2 days. I'll make it detailed enough to make their heads spin. At my parents' house, I found Sarah in her room, looking through old photo albums. She barely glanced up when I entered. Did you know? She asked quietly. Know what? About Kevin, that they were planning this. Sarah, if I had known, because I did. She closed the album. I overheard Mom and Chloe talking about it months ago. I didn't want to believe it. I sat on her bed, stunned. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were so excited about the renovation, about giving me independence. She wiped her eyes. I didn't want to ruin that for you. Oh, Sarah. I reached for her hand. You wouldn't have ruined anything. Mom says you're being cruel, she continued. That family shouldn't sue family. What do you think? She was quiet for a long moment. I think I'm tired of being the reason everyone fights. You're not. And I think, she continued, stronger now, that I'm tired of being quiet about it. From downstairs, we heard the front door open and Chloe's voice carrying up. Mom, where are those renovation contracts? Sarah squeezed my hand. Go, before they corner you. I slipped out through the back door, but not before hearing Mom's response. I can't find them anywhere. Jessica must have taken them all. Back in my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed Nasir's number. He answered on the second ring. Jessica, I was just about to call you. I'm ready to move forward, I said. Whatever it takes. Good timing. I've been reviewing your case, and I found something interesting in your father's old files. My heart skipped. What kind of something? The kind that changes everything, Nasir said. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? There's something you need to see. I ended the call and sat there, watching through the kitchen window as my mother and Chloe rifled through drawers, probably looking for paperwork that was already safely in my possession. My phone buzzed one more time. Jaden. Found more receipts in Chloe's name. This goes deeper than we thought. I started the engine, thinking about Sarah's words. Being quiet hadn't served any of us well. Maybe it was time to make some noise. The certified letters arrived on a Tuesday morning. I watched from my car across the street as the postal worker handed them to my mother. 3 identical envelopes, one for Mom, one for Chloe, and one for the household. My phone rang. It was Nasir. Letters just got delivered. Are you ready for the fallout? As ready as I'll ever be. I watched Mom sign for them. How long do you think before? A scream cut through the air. Chloe's SUV had just pulled into the driveway, and Mom was waving the envelopes frantically. Never mind, I told Nasir. Showtime. I could see them through the living room window, Chloe ripping open her envelope while Mom paced. Even from here, I could read Chloe's body language, the way she froze, then started gesturing wildly. My phone exploded with texts. Mom. Jessica, what is this? Chloe. Are you insane? Kevin. Mom's crying. What's happening? The front door flew open. Chloe stormed out, papers clutched in her hand, scanning the street. She spotted my car and started marching over. I rolled down my window. Yes? $50,000? She thrust the papers at me. You're actually billing us for $50,000? $48,920.89, I corrected. Plus legal fees. Legal fees? Her voice rose an octave. You can't be serious. Check page 3. The breakdown is quite detailed. Mom appeared behind Chloe, her face pale. Jessica, please. Come inside. We can talk about this. Like you talked to me about giving Sarah's apartment to Kevin? That's different. Chloe's hands were shaking. We're family. Family doesn't steal from family, I replied calmly. Family doesn't conspire behind someone's back. Family doesn't... Conspire? Mom cut in. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, showing them the photo of the countertop receipt with Chloe's signature. Want to explain this? Chloe's face went white. Mom looked confused. You knew, I continued. You both knew from the beginning that you were going to give the basement to Kevin. You let me spend my savings anyway. Chloe stumbled. That's not... Jessica? Sarah's voice came from the doorway. She wheeled herself down the ramp, the temporary one we'd installed while waiting for the basement to be finished. What's going on? Mom turned quickly. Nothing, honey. Just a misunderstanding. No, I called out. No more lying. Sarah deserves to know everything. I got out of my car, pulling out the full folder of evidence. They planned this, Sarah, months ago. While I was still renovating, they were already deciding to give your apartment to Kevin. Sarah's hands gripped her wheelchair arms. Is that true? Sarah, sweetie, Mom started. Is it true? The silence was answer enough. How could you? Sarah's voice broke. How could you do this to us? Kevin needed, Chloe began. Kevin needed what? Sarah's voice rose. The accessible shower I can't use? The lowered counters I can't reach? The specialized equipment Jessica bought for me? A car door slammed. Kevin had been sitting in Chloe's SUV, listening to everything. He walked over slowly, looking pale. Mom? His voice was small. Did you really plan this? Chloe reached for him. Kevin, baby. Don't. He stepped back. Just don't. My phone buzzed. Nasir again. Documents are filed. They have 72 hours to respond. You have 3 days, I announced, turning back to Mom and Chloe. Either you pay me back in full or we proceed with legal action. You wouldn't, Mom whispered. I met her eyes. Try me. I'll move out, Kevin said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. I'll go stay with Dad. Kevin, no! Chloe grabbed his arm. It's not right, he said, pulling away. What you did? It's not right. Sarah reached out and caught his hand as he passed. It's not your fault, she said softly. I watched my family fracturing on the front lawn, Mom crying, Chloe panicking, Kevin withdrawing, Sarah finally speaking her truth. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like necessary destruction. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Jaden. Just heard from Nasir. You okay? I looked at the scene before me, at the careful walls of denial crumbling down, and typed back, No, but sometimes doing the right thing hurts. Jessica, Mom called as I got back in my car. Please, we can fix this. I started the engine. You're right, Mom. That's exactly what we're doing. Dad knew this would happen, Sarah said quietly. We were sitting in my apartment sharing a pizza while she told me things she'd never shared before. He told me once that you'd always have to be the parent in this family. I set down my slice. When did he say that? About a month before he died. She picked at a napkin. He said Mom and Chloe would keep taking until someone stopped them. The doorbell rang. To my surprise, Kevin stood there, backpack slung over his shoulder. Can I come in? He asked. Just to talk. I let him in. Sarah's eyes widened, but she gave him a small wave. I moved in with Dad, he said, hovering awkwardly by the door. Mom's not speaking to me. Sit down, I told him. Have some pizza. He perched on the edge of the couch, looking younger than his 17 years. I need to tell you something about the basement. Sarah and I exchanged glances. They told me about it last summer, he continued. Mom said the house would be mine someday anyway, so it made sense for me to have the basement now. She said you'd understand because you always fix everything. My chest tightened. Did they tell you how much it cost? No. He stared at his hands. I didn't know until I saw those papers. I didn't know you spent your savings. Sarah wheeled closer to him. It's not your fault, Kevin. But I let them do it, his voice cracked. I knew it was meant for you, and I just went along with it. You're a kid, I said firmly. They're the adults. This isn't on you. My phone buzzed. Jaden. Found something interesting in the property records. Can you meet tomorrow? There's more, Kevin said. Mom's been talking to lawyers. She says she can prove the renovation was a gift, that you can't demand payment. I thought about the folder of evidence in my desk. Let her try. I'll testify, he blurted out, if you need me to, about what they planned. Sarah reached out and squeezed his hand. Kevin? No, I mean it. He straightened up. I'm tired of the lies. Remember when I was 12 and crashed Mom's car? I frowned. The one she said was hit in the parking lot? She made me lie about it. Said we needed the insurance money. He laughed bitterly. There's so many lies, so many stories. My phone rang. Mom's number. I declined it. They're saying you're trying to destroy the family, Kevin continued, but they're the ones who keep breaking everything. A memory hit me suddenly. Being 14, Chloe crashing Dad's car and blaming me, Mom believing her without question, Dad's quiet disappointment. History repeats, Sarah murmured, as if reading my thoughts. Another text came through, this time from Nasir. Eleanor's been calling my office. Says she has proof the renovation was discussed as a gift. Meeting tomorrow? Kevin, I said carefully, would you be willing to write down everything you remember about when they first told you about the basement? He nodded immediately. I have texts, too, from Mom talking about it last summer. Sarah wheeled to her bag and pulled out a small notebook. I've been keeping track, too. Dates, conversations I overheard. I thought maybe someday someone would need to know the truth. My quiet, peaceful sister. Always watching, always remembering. I should go. Kevin stood up. Dad's expecting me back, but I meant what I said. I'll help however I can. After he left, Sarah and I sat in silence for a moment. You know what this means? She finally said. If they were planning this last summer, then every time they asked my opinion about the renovation, every time they praised you for doing such a wonderful thing for me, they were lying, I finished. To both of us. My phone lit up again. Jaden. Found records of a trust from your dad's land sale. Eleanor accessed it 2 years ago. You might want to see this. Sarah was flipping through her notebook. Remember when Chloe needed bail money for that DUI? Mom said she took out a loan. What if she didn't? Sarah looked up. What if there's more we don't know? I thought about Kevin's revelation, about Sarah's secret notebook, about Dad's warning, about patterns repeating until someone finally breaks them. I need to make some calls, I said, reaching for my phone. Jess? Sarah's voice was soft but steady. Whatever you find, I'm with you this time. No more being quiet. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, past the wheelchair, past the forced smile she'd worn for years. I saw the strength there, the quiet fury. No more being quiet, I agreed, dialing Jaden's number. It's time to make some noise. The family meeting was set for 2 p.m. on Sunday. I arrived early with Nasir, setting up documents on the dining room table while Mom hovered anxiously in the kitchen. Is all this really necessary? She kept asking. Lawyers and papers. We're family. That's exactly why it's necessary, Nasir replied calmly, arranging his files. Chloe arrived late, of course. She took one look at the setup and laughed sharply. Really, Jessica? You're going to do this like a business meeting? Sit down, I said quietly. There's something you both need to see. Sarah wheeled herself to the table, positioning herself between me and Nasir. Her notebook lay in her lap. First, Nasir began, let's address the renovation costs. We've been through this, Chloe interrupted. It was a gift. You can't demand payment for a gift. Interesting theory, I said, sliding a document across the table. Especially since you signed for deliveries under your own name. That suggests you knew about the renovation plans well in advance. Mom's face paled. Chloe? That doesn't prove anything, Chloe snapped, but her hands were shaking. No, Nasir agreed, but this might. He pulled out another file. This is a transcript of a conversation between Jessica's father and myself, recorded 2 weeks before his death. The room went silent. What conversation? Mom whispered. Dad made some very specific requests about the house, I said, watching their faces carefully. About how it should be divided, 1/3 equity to each daughter. That's not, Mom started. But here's the interesting part, Nasir continued. He specifically designated Jessica as trustee for Sarah's share, to ensure Sarah would always have proper accommodation. Chloe's face went from pale to red. You're lying. Would you like to hear the recording? Nasir reached for his briefcase. There's more, I added, pulling out the trust documents Jaden had found. The land sale money. Dad left specific instructions for that, too. Instructions you ignored, Mom. Mom stood up so quickly her chair fell backward. You have no right. Actually, she has every right, Nasir cut in. As co-executor of the estate, Jessica should have been informed of all financial decisions, including the $25,000 you gave Chloe for bail 2 years ago. How did you? Chloe choked. Bank records, I said simply. Amazing what a subpoena can uncover. Sarah opened her notebook. I have dates, she said quietly. Times, conversations. Every time you planned to take advantage of Jessica's renovation. every time you discussed giving my apartment to Kevin. Sarah, Mom pleaded, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Sarah's voice was steel. I understand you never saw me as a person, just a problem to be managed. That's not true. Here's what's going to happen. I laid out another document. You have 1 week to vacate Kevin from the basement, 1 week to begin repayment of the renovation costs, or we file a lawsuit that includes the misappropriated trust funds with interest. Chloe stood up, pointing at me. You ungrateful little... I wouldn't finish that sentence, Nasir advised. Not with witnesses present. Witnesses? Mom looked confused. The front door opened. Kevin walked in with his father, both carrying folders. Hi, Gran, Kevin said softly. I brought those texts you asked me to delete. You know, about planning to give me the basement? Turns out I saved them all. Chloe collapsed back into her chair. Kevin, baby, you don't understand. I understand fine, Mom. His voice cracked. I understand you used me to steal from Aunt Sarah, to take advantage of Aunt Jessica. 1 week, I repeated, standing up. 7 days to make this right, or we let the courts decide. You'd do this to your own mother? Mom's voice broke. No, Mom, you did this. All of it. Every lie, every manipulation, every time you chose Chloe over what was right. I gathered my papers. Dad saw it coming. That's why he left those recordings. Jessica, Sarah called as I turned to leave. Wait for me. I'm coming with you. Where are you going? Mom asked frantically. To my apartment, I answered. The one I'm renting for Sarah until her actual home is returned to her. We left them there, Mom crying, Chloe seething, Kevin standing quietly with his father. Nasir followed us out, carrying his briefcase of damning evidence. Well, he said as we reached the cars, that went about as expected. Sarah looked back at the house. Do you think they'll actually pay? They'll pay, I said, thinking of all the documents we still held in reserve. One way or another, they'll pay. My phone buzzed, a text from Jaden. How'd it go? I typed back, the truth hurts, but sometimes that's exactly what family needs. Moving day came exactly 1 week later. I stood in the driveway, watching Kevin and his father load the last of his things into their truck. The basement door stood open, morning sunlight streaming in to illuminate the empty space. I cleaned everything, Kevin said, approaching me with keys in hand, and fixed the wall where I hung that TV mount. I took the keys, noticing how his hands trembled slightly. Thank you. I'm sorry, he blurted out. For everything, for not saying something sooner. From the truck, his father called out, Kevin, we should get going. Wait, I said, reaching into my bag. I pulled out a small envelope. This is for you. He opened it. Inside was a gift card for a local electronics store. Aunt Jess, for your new room at your dad's, I explained. Everyone deserves their own space, Kevin. Just the right way. He hugged me suddenly, tight and quick, then hurried to the truck before anyone could see him cry. Chloe watched them drive away from the kitchen window, her face stone cold. Mom sat at the table, signing papers Nasir had prepared. Initial here, Nasir pointed, and here. This acknowledges the repayment schedule. I still think you're making a terrible mistake, Mom said, but her pen didn't stop moving. The mistake was thinking you could take advantage of Jessica forever, Sarah said from the doorway. She wheeled herself in, surveying the basement entrance. Is it ready? I nodded. Jaden's team did a final check yesterday. Everything's exactly as it was meant to be. Not everything, Chloe muttered. You're right, I agreed. Some things have changed permanently. The doorbell rang. It was Jaden carrying a clipboard. Final inspection's all done. Want to take a look? Sarah's eyes lit up. Yes, please. We followed her down the ramp, watching as she entered her apartment for the first time, really her apartment now. She moved through each room slowly, touching countertops, testing switches, her smile growing wider. It's perfect, she whispered, then caught herself. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be happy when everything's so... Be happy, I insisted. This was always meant to be your joy. I don't understand, Mom said from the doorway. Why couldn't we just share? Why did it have to become this big legal thing? Because sharing implies consent, Nasir answered, appearing behind her. What you did wasn't sharing, it was taking. The papers are ready, he added to me. The trust transfer is complete. I'd made one final decision after our confrontation, transferring control of Sarah's trust to a disability advocacy organization. They would manage it independently, ensuring no one could ever manipulate her housing situation again. I found something, Sarah called from the bedroom. She wheeled out holding an old photograph, dusty and creased. It was tucked behind the mirror. The photo showed all of us, Mom, Dad, Chloe, Sarah, and me, standing in front of the house years ago. But behind it was a letter, Dad's handwriting clear and familiar. To Jessica, for when you need to remember who you are. My hands shook as I opened it. Jessie, you've always been the strong one, the one who fixes everything, who carries everyone. But strength isn't meant to be exploited. Don't let them take advantage of your good heart. Sometimes love means standing firm. Sometimes family needs boundaries more than they need comfort. Protect Sarah. Protect yourself. Love, Dad. Sarah reached for my hand as tears filled my eyes. He knew, I said softly. He knew they'd keep pushing until someone pushed back. Jessica, Mom tried one last time. We can still fix this. Be a family again. We are family, I replied, tucking the letter away. Just not the kind that lets you take whatever you want anymore. Jaden cleared his throat. The security system's all set up. New codes, new locks. Sarah, you ready to learn how everything works? She squeezed my hand once more before letting go. More than ready. I watched as Jaden showed her the features we'd planned so long ago. The automated lights, the accessible security panel, the emergency response system, everything designed to give her independence. I should go, Chloe announced to no one in particular. She hadn't entered the apartment, hadn't looked at any of us. Kevin needs me. No, I said quietly. Kevin needs therapy. And so do you. She left without another word. Mom followed shortly after, clutching her copy of the repayment agreement. You okay? Jaden asked, finding me staring at the empty driveway. No, I admitted, but I will be. From inside, we heard Sarah laugh at something, a real laugh, free and unburdened, and somehow that made everything worth it. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee from Sarah's new shop in the basement. She transformed half the space into a small online business, selling handmade jewelry and accessories. The other half remained her living area, exactly as I'd designed it. Orders ready, she called out, and I heard the whir of her wheelchair as she brought 2 steaming mugs to the patio table. Careful, they're hot. Thanks. I took mine, watching leaves dance across the lawn. How's the Etsy store doing? 300 sales last week. Her eyes sparkled. Turns out people love artisan stuff made by someone who actually understands accessibility needs. My phone buzzed, a text from Kevin. Got straight A's this semester. Dad says hi. Kevin's doing well. I showed Sarah the message. The therapy seems to be helping. Unlike Mom and Chloe's therapy, Sarah sighed, which they're still refusing to attend. The last payment had arrived yesterday, exactly as scheduled, exactly as demanded. Mom and Chloe had stuck to the agreement, though they'd stopped speaking to us entirely. The money came through certified mail, no notes attached. Jaden called earlier, Sarah said, a slight smile playing at her lips. He asked about you. Did he now? Mm-hmm. Something about needing help with a project proposal. Sounds like an excuse to me. Before I could respond, a car pulled into the driveway. Mom's car. We watched as she got out slowly, carrying something. Should we? Sarah started. Wait, I said quietly. Mom walked to the patio, her face drawn and tired. She held out a box. I found these in the attic. Thought you might want them. Inside were Dad's old journals, dozens of them, leather-bound and worn. "There's more," she said, her voice barely steady, "about what he knew, what he saw happening. I read them last night." Sarah wheeled closer. And? And he was right. Mom's hands twisted together. About everything. About how we treated you both. About how I enabled Chloe's behavior. Encouraged it even. I said nothing, just waited. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she continued. "I just thought you should have these. He wrote them for you, Jessica. Both of you, really." She turned to leave, then stopped. "Sarah, I saw your shop online. The jewelry. It's beautiful." "Thank you," Sarah said softly. Mom nodded once and left, driving away as quietly as she'd come. "Well," Sarah picked up one of the journals. "That was unexpected. Should we read them? Maybe not today." She set it back in the box. "Today feels good just as it is." My phone buzzed again. Jaden. "That project proposal was just an excuse. Dinner tonight?" Sarah caught my smile. "Go ahead. Say yes. You've spent enough time fixing everyone else's life. Time to live your own." I typed back, "Yes, but only if you actually bring a project proposal. I have standards." You know what Dad would say right now? Sarah was looking at the box of journals. He'd say sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well. Speaking of living well, I nodded toward her workshop. "Those orders won't fill themselves." "True, and you have a date to get ready for." "It's not a date." "Sure it isn't." She grinned, wheeling back toward her shop. "Just like this isn't the happiest I've been in years." I watched her go, thinking about everything that had led us here. The renovation, the betrayal, the fight, the victory that felt both sweet and bitter. My phone lit up one last time, a message from an unknown number. "It's Chloe. Kevin showed me Sarah's shop. She's doing amazing things. I'm proud of her. Don't tell her I said that. Not yet. Maybe someday." I showed Sarah the text. "Progress," she said thoughtfully. "Small, but real. Want me to respond?" She considered it, then shook her head. "Not yet. Maybe someday." I looked around at everything we'd built, not just the physical space, but the boundaries, the strength, the new way of being family. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even fully healed, but it was real, and it was ours. "Hey, Jess," Sarah called from her workshop door. "Thank you, not just for the apartment, for everything." "Always," I replied, and meant it. She disappeared inside, the sound of her work tools starting up, creating beautiful things in a space that was finally, truly hers. And somehow, that sound was better than any revenge could ever be.